We won't let them take control. Guard the streets and guard your soul. Windy City, ThetanWatch, standing tall, we won't be caught. No call gonna claim our town. In the breeze, we bring them down.
Hey everybody, happy New Year's Eve. We are soon to be in New Year's. Our South African friends are probably already there. Who else? Is England or Europe might be also past the New Year's. Thank you all for coming in. Just had a little bit of time before I head out to go celebrate New Year's with some of my friends. Got quite the crowd in here. Dip me in glitter. Happy New Year's to you as well. Always good to see you in the lives, Never and Nana. Also always good to see you live. I appreciate that you're always out there on the streets with us. Happy New Year's, Irish Mart. Howdy, Lupita. Great to see you. Hey, Amy. Happy New Year's. And does Jewish New Year coincide this year? I know I feel like Christmas and Hanukkah coincided this year. Thank you so much, Tony. I appreciate that. Thank you, Style. I really just came here just to see if I could get the A+ from Style. I really appreciate that. Yeah, we're gonna go do fancy. I've got a friend down in the city center, and they're in a sky rise, so we get to see the fireworks over the river. It's just for the last 10 years I've celebrated New Year's with this group. So gotcha. Thanks for the correction, Amy. Rosh Hashanah. Happy New Year's to you as well. You know, I didn't really have anything planned. This was kind of a spur of the moment, but then I kind of realized, hey, it's been an eventful year. You know, I have an awful lot of memories with many of the people that we see here in the audience already. But right, that if we think about it, it was an eventful year. It was, you know, this was my first year on YouTube. It was my first year actually being vocal about Scientology. You know, I've told you all that I always thought that Scientology was a silly religion, and being kind to say it's a religion. But that when we saw the Good group and all this last year at Christmas time, I think it was Christmas time that LA kind of blew up with the protesters that were out there. It started out heavily on TikTok and then migrated over to YouTube. So I had a lot of help. I'm going to tell you that right at the bat that this doesn't happen on its own. It's important to, you know, that everybody realized that the audience helping me out when I was struggling out there on the street. Oh, you know what? I actually intentionally changed the background so that it would read forwards. Now I'm going to have to, in the background, I'm going to download something real quick. Oh, let me see if I can do that. Add that, add that. Now, if I wasn't being tricked, now I got to slide my camera over so I'm on the other side of the room. Are you reading it correctly now? So now to me, it looks backwards, but I'm not really looking at that. But thanks, Peter, for that. Peter gets the helper of the day, best elf. So we've got that. But this channel doesn't really exist without the second gens and the former Scientologists that were able to tell their stories, right? And yes, I had seen the Aftermath show, the Leah Remini work that had gone on through there. That was interesting background. I wouldn't say I would have paid enough attention to it to have gotten all of the details that really helped me. And I'm going to be a little bit presumptuous here. I think I've been an effective protester. I think that I prevented an awful lot of people from joining or going into or entertaining Scientology's propaganda. I have no idea if I've actually helped anybody um, come out of Scientology, but I don't have those tools without the former Scientologists, right? And even without the former Scientologists, right? We've got everybody in the crowd, and I love everybody that's here. I love that I'm seeing a lot of names that I see familiarly. But then there's also Michael Andreas, who is also somebody who was always in there. Like we always used to joke that he was our human Wikipedia in that spot. And the mods that I've had, and I know it's a lightning rod, and there are plenty of people that have had challenges with it. But this channel doesn't become what it is without my help from people like Ellie. And I know that um, she's struggling right now, and she's kind of faded into the background. But then, when she was always a very good voice of reason to me, so I appreciate that. Fuzzy has been phenomenal. JBat been phenomenal. Mama Opal, Nancy Alley, they've all helped out so much, right, in regards to what's going on this channel. And I appreciate everything that they've been able to do this year. If you'll indulge me, let's do a little bit memory lane, right? So does anybody remember when I started? And I appreciate that, Peter and Neverin. And again, I'm not dead. I'm just not going to be around quite as often as I have in the past. Let me see. Sorry about reaching into the camera. Let me see if I can change this a little bit so that I can get my head above those banners. So if you remember my first day, and I haven't seen her in yet, but Corn Freak and I started on the same day. Yep, we did have the drone flight over the old building. That one was a static video. Did I do that static? Mike, did I do the static video before I did the live? Oh, no, you know what? I didn't do a live either because when I was out there, the first day, Shannon was already out there, and Corn and I went to go visit her and, to say, hey, how does this work? And later that day, Trashy came by. So that was awesome. And you're right. I'm guessing that it was static, that I did a static recording because I'm sure I wouldn't have been able to do lives yet. So hey, my shoes aren't that big, maybe 10 and a half. We can find that. I'm going to tell you that when, and I mentioned this when I was out on the streets, when I kind of took a step back and got ready for Africa, I was really, really thrilled how often other Chicago protesters had gotten out there. That was, we saw Corn out there quite a bit. We saw Never and Nana, Juanita, Dip Me in Glitter. And again, these are people who travel to get here, right? These are not people who, I was always fortunate that most of my clients were within a couple of blocks of Scientology. So I could get there for a quick pop in at lunchtime. I could go there after work, even on a Saturday or Sunday, I can get down there, quick train ride. Some of these other people, they're coming from out of state to be there, Free Xenu Project. And I don't think that we've seen Free Xenu Project in a while. I know that he's been helping his parents or his family out quite a bit lately as well. So that makes sense that we haven't seen him. So yes, we started in Lakeview, right? And the organization there was kind of on a V corner, so you could see the back and the front of the building, depending on which side of which street you were on at that corner. And even that day, we all got in the car, and I think it was Corn that drove us down to the org. No, no, that's not true. We walked to the train station and we took the train down. That's right. We took the train down to the city center and we walked around the new org. Um, while I'm kind of talking, and remember, there's about a 20-second lag between me saying stuff and you guys being able to respond. Um, what are some of the most memorable videos, or what are the most memorable experiences, encounters that you guys remember from this past year? I'm not sure if I can look them up very quickly. I just don't know how to navigate through there, but we can definitely, see what we can do there in that space. What are some of the things that you remember about this first year? And again, it's really only been 10 months because, right, it's March. So it was March 3rd that the organization opened. I was in Japan at that point in time. I'll say it was very funny that there were rumors bandied about that I was a plant from Scientology because I wasn't at the opening. Yet I felt very confident and comfortable that I told everybody that I had already had plans to go to the Tokyo Marathon. So, I'm sorry that David Miscavige chose a bad time to open that organization. But I'm not a plant. I am not somebody who is pro Scientology in any way, shape, or form. I worry about people there that are trapped inside of that organization. I just happened to be unavailable on that day, so we've got that. Bella, that was a big one, right? I was worried a lot because of the police presence, and again, they were centering in on me, but I couldn't tell what they were really trying to get after. And I felt fairly confident because I was in the right, but you never know how Scientology is going to tell their side of the story, right? The shore story or the acceptable truth in that space. I'm sorry, I'll come right back to this. Hey, Corn, great to see you. We were just talking about our first day, that we both had our first day on the same day up there at Lakeview. So the Literary Fest, and by the way, this was not my most, I wasn't most worried about this interaction. Memorial Day bothered me more than Literary Fest did, but we'll definitely get I think that both of them are fairly valid. If you remember, the way that had worked is it was a 2-day event, and on the first day, the police had been called over several times. Hey, this guy is telling everybody we're Scientologists, which, by the way, you're Scientologists. Why should it be surprising that or why should you be upset that I'm telling people that you're Scientologists? Because if you remember, at the Literary Fest, they were pushing the Dianetics book, and they want to disconnect themselves from Scientology when they're selling the Dianetics book, because they understand that Scientology has that cast of aspersions and it's gray area, taboo. But Dianetics is something that isn't quite as known. It's not as highly publicized, and it doesn't have the negative connotations to the same degree that Scientology does. So they were always upset when I would say, hey, they're Scientology. It was fun that day. It was, to me, it's just such a riot to get, to be the bee in their bonnet. So I truly, there are times where I actually get joy of upsetting them. And I'm not saying that I like to upset people. I like to disrupt them as an organization. And quite honestly, they're an organization. You hear me say church quite a bit. And I say church just to allow them to respond to me. But I don't believe they're a church in any way, shape, or form. But that I want to disrupt them as an organization. I actually feel poorly for some of the people because I do believe they're victims, right? The people that are inside of Scientology are victims in this space. So the second day, when I arrived, I immediately went straight to the white shirt, and in Chicago, the white shirts are the authority people in the police department. So whether or not it's sergeant, lieutenant, captain, so on and so forth, they're going to be in the white shirt. I immediately went to a white shirt. I said, "Hey, I'm going to be here today. I'm going to be filming." They went. They cried to you guys all day yesterday. I hope that you understand that I have every right to be here. They're going to tell you that I'm doing things. Please just keep an eye on me. You're going to see that I'm not doing any of the things that they're saying. When we reviewed that tape, the woman, is it Kim Ott or Karen Ott? I think it was Kim Ott. Kim Ott was the officer. Oh boy, so many memories right now. So Kim Ott was standing right behind the guy in the white shirt when I went up to him and I made this declaration saying, "Hey, I'm going to be here today." But anyhow, the day goes on, and eventually the spiky-haired fella, Chris Romani, and by the way, Bridge is another one that's been invaluable to the channel, right? With her information, she's always doing research in that space. So with Chris Romani, he finally got an officer to listen to him. She didn't like the idea that I was trying to listen to their conversation and to record or document what was going on. She kept on trying to push me away. The other police officers played defense that whole time. We saw 2 private investigators come up that day, and one of them stood between me and the officers. This same officer gave Never and Nana a hard time, and I believe followed Never and Nana away from the event, right? So not only did they kind of make threatening gestures, right? No overt statements, but they just tried to be imposing and intimidating in that space. So yeah, that again, Scientology showing their colors in that space. But yeah, the Literary Fest was, by the way, I thought it was a great day because, or a great weekend, that if you think about it, they spent money to get that table, and we saw 2 sales on Sunday. I don't remember if we saw any sales on Saturday. So they just were absolutely ineffective. And we had a lot of people there, right? Helly was there, Never In was there, Style Audit was there. I don't think Corn was there that day, but I just can't clearly remember that. So we've got that. Howdy, Mama Squirrel. Definitely hope you're doing better. Hope you have a great Happy New Year. Hope that the everything starts to bounce back this year. Really appreciate that. You know, Amy, this was one of the things, and I'll even go wider, right? Both student interactions and just neighbor interactions. Um, how many times did we come across somebody who didn't know that Scientology was there, who didn't know what Scientology was, who didn't understand all of the front groups of Scientology that were there? There were just an awful lot of interactions, and some of the ones that were most memorable. I think it was Memorial Day. Memorial Day, there was a police interaction, and after the police interaction, which, by the way, remember, I had called for the police, and the police never came. We went over to Flacco's Tacos, and there were 4 of us over there, and we had a drink and some tacos. And as I left, and I didn't get this on film, but a couple was walking their dog, and they had approached me and that said, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And I'm sure. What would you like? We notice you're always out in front of Scientology. Can you explain to us what it is? And my ability to be able to educate them on what Scientology was, many of the abuses that were there. I did have a card with me. I was able to give them a card to let them know that, hey, I'm really out here to stop people from falling prey to the Church of Scientology. So, those interactions I really, really, really loved, right? That's this idea that when I said earlier, I think I was effective. I do think that I am educating people and I am preventing people from going inside of those doors. Even, I'm going to say yesterday, but was it yesterday that we were out there and the vendor, the guy in the white van who said that he was only there because he was a contractor, and the guy that had employed him said, hey, you should look at Scientology, right? But I was able to give him the card and to explain to him, hey, please look at this before you get too much invested in what's going on here. And my hope is, knock on wood, if we can find some wood, that he'll read that and he'll try not to get involved with Scientology. I definitely think it would be to his detriment. Moth, right? Moth was always out there, and Moth had been violated by the Church of Scientology, both on opening day and since then. And she's a person that she has disabilities, or she's got impairments that make it challenging for her. And when she's pushed around, that's troubling to her, right? That, when Scientology says, no, go the long way around, well, that's a burden to her, right? I'm going to say I'm a very capable person. I don't have any handicaps that would be looked at, but I would call it a burden if you wouldn't let me walk into my house, right? If I live in a place and you don't let me go to the place I live, that's a problem, right? I have a problem with that. So yeah, thanks, Amy. I appreciate that. There were so many student interactions, right? The young black male that we saw inside of the Dunkin' Donuts, right? And when I finally talked to him, and he said, yeah, and I came back, and this pretty girl came, and I said, Jessica? Yeah, Jessica, right? And then maybe a week later, we saw the taller, thin white male come out of the organization and go down the sidewalk. And I followed him down there, and he was a little bit suspect of, hey, you followed me all the way down here. And eventually he confessed. He just went in there to kind of talk to Jessica, right? He didn't care anything about Scientology. He just saw, hey, there's a pretty girl. I want to make time with her, right? Type thing. That one incredibly powerful interaction early on, when Jessica walked out of the building, and I started confronting her and the candidate, and she quickly took him by the arm and walked him down the street. And I followed them down the street, and I kept on saying, don't listen to them. Don't pay attention to them. They're a cult. They just want your money. Be careful. And about a week later, we saw that he had posted on the chat, and this was probably 3 weeks later. He had posted on the chat, hey, the guy at timestamp X, that's me. I really appreciate it. I didn't know what was going on at that point in time. I was nervous, scared about what was going on, but I went home and I did the research, and I'm not moving forward with Scientology, right? And that, I'm going to tell you, that was just a great feeling to know that, hey, yeah, you're out there, especially this time of year and early in the spring. It was cold out there many of those days, right? There was snow on the ground. Our hands are freezing. And we need our hands to kind of, well, many of us, depending on what our gear is, we can't have gloves on all the time because we can't change the camera aspect. We can't change anything that's going on there. So I thought that was always really, really interesting. Let's see what else we've got here. Kelly, thank you for that. Really appreciate it. Howdy, Ricky and Abeem. Happy New Year to you. Yeah, I'm trying to remember this particular one. I remember the black fellow said he bought the book and showed it to his mom, and his mom said, don't get involved. And it's like, listen to your mom. I'm going to have to try and remember. There are so many videos, and it's so hard to catalog them, right? I mean, I have a job to do, and then I have, when I go out and do the videos, it's very challenging for me to then catalog that so that I can quickly recall them or look them back up. Thank you. Love your method of saving people from Sciento flyers. You explained what it is, and then, do you want that? Another soul saved. Yeah. Yeah. Do you want that? No. Can I have it? Thank you. Right. Howdy, Lori. Hope you have a great, happy New Year. This is one that, every once in a while I would feel a little bit low, but low it's a strange term to say. This idea that I'm doing retail work, right? So I'm only stopping one person at a time. But so many of you and so many of the former Scientologists remind me that When I stopped one person from going in there, I stopped their kids, I stopped their spouse, I stopped their brothers and sisters, I stopped their whole family and their friends from going in as well. And I definitely always needed that reassurance that says, hey, it's not just this one, it's really everybody. That it's important that we understand you're saving a lot of people when you do this, when you're going through that education. And that was, I always felt good about that. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure everybody in this channel is very well aware of, but Phil Jones, right? And Phil Jones, he got in when he was younger. He went to a big meeting. He got somewhat interested. He went back. He brought his sister in. And one of the statements that he'll always say, and he's got a great deal of regrets for this, his sister is still a very active recruiter in Scientology. So the idea that had somebody stopped Phil Jones from getting in, his two children wouldn't be stuck in Scientology, but also he wouldn't have a sister who is consistently, and for the past 40 years, trying to bring new people into Scientology. So I think it is important that we realize that when you stop one, you're stopping a lot, right? Very true style audit, right? And again, I'm very grateful for all of the things that happened this year. Yeah, there were some tough times, that Bootgate sucked, Mod Wars sucked. We've had people that no longer protest or demonstrate, and it's probably because of some of the internal strife or the backbiting that occurred. And it was always very important to me that I really wouldn't get involved in that. And every day I hope that you saw, I'm here to protest against Scientology, right? I remember putting out a couple of titles like, hey, I'll tell you why I'm here today and stuff like that. And everybody thought, oh, cool, Paul's going to spill the tea. And it's like, nope, still here just to protest Scientology, or demonstrate against Scientology. My brother's here. How you doing, Declared Dave? I'm older than you by just a skosh. Right. Marina, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And again, many of you know that, right? I'm going to be moving away from Chicago. Chicago is always. I have so many friends. Remember, I'm. Uh, I'm older than I look, and I've lived here all of my life. So the number of friends and relationships that I have in this city are astounding, and I will be back here. And I assure you that every time I am back here, I'll be out in front of the organization, right? Because all it takes is a phone, right? I just need a phone to be out in front of that. But I still want to say, if anybody sees this and you're looking to get involved and you say, hey, what does it take to go out there and be on the streets? Please email me, WindyCityThetanWatch@gmail.com. Let me see. I don't think I've got anybody in here. Let's do that. So you can definitely look at the website. Let me do this one. And can I take that one off? Ask me. I'm more than happy to give you any information. I'm no expert in regards to what goes on here. I don't want to say that I do things right or do things wrong. I do things that feel good to me, right? We talked about this a little bit yesterday. That style is just that, style. It's a very subjective measure in regards to what's going on. I feel comfortable the way that I do it. Oops, I'll start there. Yeah, the town that L. Ron Hubbard couldn't shut down. So one of the things to remember is that Tori and her family were prominent here, but at the time that Tori's parents were here, it was much more of a, and it wasn't Tori's parents, it was Tori's husband's parents, that were involved in the missions, because there wasn't an ideal org here when she would have been here, but they would have been instrumental in growing this up. And yeah, Scientology didn't have a big stronghold here. I definitely think that they spent an awful lot of money on that building on South Clark Street, so 650 South Clark Street. And in addition to the money that they spent there, that's a prestigious building. They're sending in all of the augmented Sea Org staff to be here. You can tell they're shuttling bodies in and shuttling bodies out of staff here. They can't keep it staffed up. It is important to Scientology to have a presence here in Chicago. Again, we are the third largest city in America. We are, the heartland, the heart of the heartland. We are flyover country. If you're in New York or you're LA, we get that. But yeah, it's important that I think it's important to Scientology to get a presence here in Chicago. And I think that the collection of demonstrators and protesters have done a phenomenal job in making it very, very difficult for Scientology to get that hold. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that building, it's going to be an old masonry building. I don't know if they, how well they did with the windows that are on there. Um, the 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 expense that they go through to have a presence here in Chicago, I have a feeling it's painful to them. Yes, we are a toddle in town, right? One of the things that I love is, I used to live in one of the taller apartments down in the city, and tonight I'll be in one of the taller apartments down in the city. And when you look out over the city, it's amazing to see how much activity goes on in this city, and to look at the little ants on the street. But to see the lights, to see the cars going up and down the streets, to see the people going through the parks, it's Chicago's a thing, right? So absolutely, Adam. Yeah, it is a weird intersection, right? One of the things that I like to remind people is that L. Ron Hubbard was one of and Scientology continues to be one of the most overtly racist organizations that there are. Now, yes, they do accept members of all colors, but I assure you that internally, that if they could do without, they would do without. Right? How many prominent people of color, right? Jesse Prince, I think, is the only real person of heft that I recall in Scientology, right? And additionally, what's strange is NOI has an extremist version of Islam, and if you were to talk to any Muslim or anybody that believes in the Islam faith, NOI is not Islam at all, right? That there's violence as an element of what they do, and that's always we were always cautioned here that NOI is the more dangerous element than Scientology in regards to protesting, right? Because NOI would probably become they would physically attack rather than Scientology, who does more of the psychological warfare. Thank you so much, Yolanda. Really appreciate that. Yep. So Farrakhan living close by, Chicago was and is a black mecca or an African American centric town, right? If you go to the south end of Grant Park, you'll see all of the signs showing how people were post Civil War and post 16th Amendment, that people flooded north to get jobs, right? And Chicago and Detroit were the two biggest places that they were able to get the jobs. Detroit with the automotive industry, and Chicago with manufacturing in general, but steel as well. So, and when I say Chicago, you're going all the way down to Gary, Indiana, so the lakefront there. Yeah, they have been here since the 70s, but whether or not they've had, it's really challenging. Like I'm now questioning those property records that we see all the time. I think that the first time I saw a rental on that was 1957. Um, but they've probably been here since the 70s. I don't know when they actually started their first org here, but they definitely had missions before the orgs. Well, New York's just a little backwater town, so that's fine. Didn't didn't he kind of try to get? Wasn't there an attempt to make a presence in Harlem as well? Which again is just strange to me because um, historically that is again persons of color neighborhood or area. Yeah, it's really kind of amazing that when I used to live on Michigan Avenue, and by the way, if for those of you that think now I'm a multi-billionaire, it was a studio apartment that I was renting from somebody who they had bought it for their college kids, and their college kids had graduated, so he just had this extra building that he didn't want to sell, or extra room that he didn't want to sell. But my window looked out onto Lake Michigan, and in Chicago, every Wednesday and every Saturday is a fireworks show. So you'd just be laying in bed and watching fireworks every night. Now, there's a downside to that, that when you want to go to sleep, there's a fireworks show every night. Yeah, I think yeah, I agree with this. And by the way, I agree with everything Dave says because he's actually an intelligent person. And yeah, I wish that the channel would have gotten traction because I thought it was one of the most educational channels that were out there for never ends, right? To help us understand what are the policies and practices of Scientology, right there on paper. And Dave has one of the most incredibly vast collections of Scientology paraphernalia. So. Oh, now I've got to look up what the John Wellborn Root Building is. Howdy, Helly. I didn't see you pop in. Great to see you. Another one of the awesome Chicago protesters and demonstrators. Um, Helly went on a bit of an East Coast tour, and what was awesome is I think she took the whole thing by train, at least most of it by train. But right, New York, Buffalo. Yesterday, I saw a very good interaction with somebody from Buffalo. Um, so that was kind of awesome. Not very good. A police interaction with somebody from Buffalo, and the police said, "Yeah, there's nothing wrong here." Although I will say that the police came in hot and heavy on him, so it was definitely a swatting type call. Yes, yes, he does. um, there have been a couple of times where I've asked him to do a couple of voiceovers for me, and he's been very generous and helped me out with that. So I appreciate that. Yeah, I want to build on this statement a little bit that many of us, if you watch my channel, you probably watch 25 other anti-Scientology channels. And if we think about it, I've said the word bubble before, and I will tell you that um, people have tried to make a statement out of it that, oh, he thinks that we're fake or whatever, and it's like, you're just being a jackalope. Um, that we all know because we listen to these channels so much, we get what's going on in Scientology. The average person that walks along the sidewalk, they have no idea that, number one, they don't know it's a Scientology church in the first place. Even though it says Scientology, it's 20 feet above you in the air. So how often do you look at a sign, that's 20 feet in the air? Um, so yeah, that's part of it. And they don't know really, well, big deal. They look at it, oh, Church of Scientology. It must just be a church, right? Just like the Lutherans, just like the Baptists, just like the Catholics. Well, there are so many people that don't get what Scientology is, right? And it's important that we're out there educating in these spaces to help them understand that it's not safe to go into a Scientology building. It's not safe to allow Scientology to have any information about you. It's not safe to, yeah, it's not intelligent to give them any money in that space. Thank you so much, Adam. I appreciate that. And the Monadnock is, I go by that a lot, right? So remember, we've got Optimal Hat is in there. And by the way, right next to Monadnock is the Arc building, and that is one of the other Columbia College student houses. But Monadnock was considered the first skyscraper. But if you look at it, it was a masonry skyscraper. So the base of the Monadnock is incredibly thick. When you look at the windows, you know, the windows are 3 feet deep before you get to the glass, and that's because the walls had to be so wide in order to support that structure that's so high up there. Rika, right back at you, right? You know, thank you so much. I appreciate that. But again, you're one of those people that have been in the anti-Scientology movement for the past year incredibly consistently. Really been a pleasure getting to know you and many of the others in this community. Yes. So she's an extreme normie. She's not a normie. Which one is this related to? So what town is this? Oh, Long Island. Is this Long Island you're talking about? This is something that's very funny. That yeah, I agree with that. That I think a lot of people there's Christ science and Christian scientists, as well as uh, the 17th Day Adventists. Like a lot of people think that big, large, round building that's on Wacker Drive is part of Scientology as well. Howdy, Greg. Happy you're already in the next year. Uh, Definitely wishing you a happy new year. Um, Hope things go very, very well. Thank you so much for all the help that you gave me while we were down there, unlocking new locations, new spaces. Really appreciate that. Yeah, I think that's true. Like some people don't want to believe it happens. Um, it's a it's a horrific story, right? The idea I don't like telling the story. For the longest time, I really didn't want to tell the story whenever I would see people with children, right? And but it was a problem that I would have that you're bringing your child here knowing that this location is involved in child trafficking and child abuse, right? That there are child auditors in this building. How can you bring your children in here? Yes, agree. Oh, sorry, I get in trouble because I read these, but people that are on the replay can't or on the phone. So Seventh Day Adventism has 21 million members. Now, the other certain cult claims to have that many as well, but we know that they're off by probably a factor of 1,000. So they're only three uh, three zeros off. Yes, it was. And while many of you have bought me a coffee, metaphorically, Gregory actually bought me a coffee physically. I don't have, yeah, I don't have enough background on that. On that. Ooh, now I'm intrigued. Amy, what do you know about this? And look at that, Dave answering questions. So apparently, our Christian Science scientist was started by Mary Baker Eddy. Let's kind of get back to. I've got maybe another 15 minutes. What are some other memories, right? So what are some other things that you saw this past year that we should talk about? Still see an angle to this. Remember, they promised learning advancement for learning struggles, so parents will send kids to the org to prevent medication and stigma. Yeah, and they lie about a lot of things in regards to what they're doing to help educate or to help make that feel good. Mhm. Nice. You know, oh, I can't remember her name. Um, but about 3, 4 months ago, we stopped seeing her, but the one that was always at the desk. Um, and I do know her name. I'm going to go over to my website. Anastasia, that's what it was. So, um, you know, I'll clip this in here. So many of you have asked me, right, what are the names of some of the people? And, I learned a lot of them through Facebook. This post will show you that. And let's see if I can do a quick share screen. So if we look here, right, we've got the staff of the Ideal org here. We've got Joe Sakala. He's the executive director, and his father is the one that runs Dream Exchange. He was also the one that was the interfering lawyer in the Boogate case. We've got Crystal Ehrlich, who is the wife of, and that was the wedding that was celebrated in May. Jessica Kudowitz. I'm probably saying that wrong, but our local honeypot, right? Chadwick Burke, right? Chad Olson, Anastasia. We don't see Anastasia anymore. We don't see Chadwick Burke anymore. Izzy. Izzy gets frustrated and miffed when I tell her name, so she gets mad about that. I've actually seen both of these. I haven't seen Asada for a long time. I've only seen Angela very like early on. I saw her 2 or 3 times. This is Nino Aquino. We saw him several times. He was at the Literary Fest. He's the one that got caught with the sign. He and one of the other members were the 2 that got caught with the sandwich boards out on the sidewalk. This is Monique. This one I've only seen once. So I don't know where else or if she's still involved in Scientology or not. And remember, most people, these might be glamour shots that are showing up on Facebook, so we might not look at it like that just the same. Gunnar, we have seen before. Ludmilla, we've seen before. Now, this one I haven't seen before, but claims to have joined at the same time as Jessica did. So her name's Kiana Horn. But so if you're ever looking for those names, and I'll try to keep on updating this. So never in, if you're looking for who's who, this will help, right? Yes, this place did have 2 Chadwicks, but the difference is Chadwick Burke, he's got an E at the end of both his first and last name. So Chadwick is storing up all of the silent E's. Yeah, this is one that there are 2 very much older women that I really wish that I could make a better connection with. That the letter registrar, I think that Trashy was probably the first one to make contact with them. But then we had the conversation, right, with her back pain and she gets by and all of that. But um, you know, I I haven't seen her in a long time. Maybe she has gotten out. Maybe she's been moved elsewhere. No idea what's going on with that. But yeah, quite honestly, folks, I think we all wish that all of them would find a way out, right? That they would all understand that they're being bamboozled in this space. Let's see what else. Yeah, some of the other memories that I have is um, on opening day, even though I wasn't there, when Danny was at the one end of the street and Leah was able to get into the apartment building at the other end of the street. And by the way, kudos to Leah to be able to get in there and to be able to get up on a higher elevation and be able to take photos. But you could hear Danny on her recording, and that's 2 city blocks of Chicago. Um, So that to me was just amazing that Danny has that kind of booming voice that he can be heard across. And remember, the stage was in the middle with Miscavige and team using a PA system or amplified speakers, and you could still hear Danny um, on the other end of the street. So just phenomenal. What else? Um, Nice, and I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about, right? A taller guy as well, right? And by no means overweight, but he's built for civilian and high winds. I would strongly encourage you to head over there, right? If you want to understand the doctrine of Scientology, Dave went through that quite a bit, right? Dave was very good at showing us his library of content. He has an incredibly physical lot of books. He's got the e-meters, but he also had an awful lot of electronic media that we would go through over on that channel. So the this one, he's a smoker. So one thing that I always remember about this guy is that he would walk up towards the door. He never acknowledged me, right? He would walk towards the door, but he would usually come up from the south side of the street, and he would walk up to the garbage can and put out a cigarette. He usually had a coffee and cigarette in his hands before he would go into the org, and he would finish his cigarette there. I might have regressed back down to OT3 by now, but yeah. Hey, Private Ross. This is a new name to me, and I apologize if you've been on before. I just, I don't recognize that, but thank you for being here tonight. Really appreciate that. Paul Ross from Detroit on the second wave of the Arctic air coming from the north. Yeah. So it was strange. I think early December, we had that really nasty cold break. And then right now, we're just above freezing. So today, it's been raining all day long. So from midnight this past night till right now, it's been drizzling, raining the whole time. And I think this is kind of taking everything from Chicago all the way to New York. I think New York's expecting rain for their show tonight. All right, folks. Listen, I appreciate everybody being there. I'm not going to disappear, right? Whether or not I have to sit at a desk and protest Scientology, great. If I can find ways to travel to protest Scientology, great. I might. I'm definitely going to be up here in Chicago from time to time, so you're going to get that. Nice. Yes, all my BTs have fallen off. I'll look for that again and I will send it to you. It was a small channel. He only had maybe 200 subs. So I'll definitely get that over to you. All right. I need to get ready to go and visit with my friends. I really appreciate everybody being here tonight. Thank you so much for the support through the year, right? That again, this channel doesn't exist without all of the help of you and all the people that we don't see here tonight. And I really do appreciate that. So thank you so much. We came close to, I was going to show you the analytics. So we had about 200,000 views this year, 23,000 watch hours. Now I'll say that the last 2 months I've been very, very lackluster. So we're not getting many views there, but I was impressed with 2,300 watch hours. We've got 2,400 subs. And how many videos do I have up? I don't know if I can see that from here. Yeah, I don't know how many videos we've done. So, all right, folks. I think there's other people doing lives tonight, so let's see if we can go share it around. Really appreciate that. Thank you for that, Helly. Appreciate it. You all have a great night. Happy New Year's. Stay safe. Be careful out there tonight. Very dangerous night to be out there driving, so be very, very careful if you're out there doing that. And with that, thank you so much. I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.